Hello everyone and welcome to Rewind, the retro video game show coming to you live every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on the AWS for Games channels on YouTube and Twitch. My name is Chris Melissinos and I'm the Principal Evangelist for video games here at AWS. And on this episode of Rewind, we are going to take a look back on the Atari 5200 SuperSystem. Released in 1982, Atari was looking at the game console landscape, with the Mattel Intellivision being their biggest competitor, with a more technically advanced system than Atari's 2600, and they decided to create a successor to their console that could lean in closer to their arcade games and provide a better experience than that of the Intellivision. At the same time, the home computer market, with Commodore leading the way, was growing. So Atari repackaged the tech of the 5200 for their entry into the personal computer market with the Atari N400 and 800 computer line. Now, while sharing much of the same architecture, there were some significant differences that made it difficult to bring games to the 5200 from the Atari N400 lines. Most specifically, the 5200 had much less RAM than the 400. Internal registers were in different locations and some had different purposes altogether. Right, so speaking of the hardware, let's take a look at the system itself. The 5200 ran a custom MOS 6502C processor at 1.79 megahertz. The 6502 was actually used in a wide variety of early personal computers and had a pretty significant developer base. It had two graphic processors, the alphanumeric television interface controller, or ANTIC, and the graphic television interface adapter, or the GITA, GTIA, along with three supporting VLSI chips. The 5200 had a wide variety of screen modes, I believe it was like 14, with a resolution of up to 384 by 240 pixels, and had a color palette of 128 to 256 colors depending on the resolution and the screen mode. It could also display up to 256 colors with some advanced programming techniques, making it look a lot more vibrant than the competitors in the market. So other things that the 5200 supported were a limited number of sprites and scrollings, full screen scrolling actually, for smooth screen movement. It boasted 16K of RAM, 2 kilobytes of ROM for the BIOS, and supported up to 32 kilobytes for cartridges. And lastly, it had a 4 sound channel chip, known as the Pokey sound chip, also handling the keyboard I/O along with a variety of other functions. So while boasting more technically advanced hardware, the 5200 was not well received overall. The ColecoVision had more arcade-accurate ports, came bundled with the arcade smash hit Donkey Kong, and the jump in capabilities from the 2600 to the 5200 was more of a half step versus a full generational leap. So Atari tried to innovate in two particular areas that have become almost legendary in the retro game community. So first were their controllers, right, which you can see right behind me. And these include a numeric keypad like the Intellivision and the ColecoVision, and eventually the Atari Jaguar would also incorporate a keypad. But these were non-centering analog joysticks, which was kind of like a cross between a joystick and a paddle, which made arcade games exceedingly challenging to play. Some arcade games just needed the precision of a digital controller, either 4-way or 8-way, and analog again just made it almost impossible to play some of these games. And the fire buttons were located on the sides of the joystick, and they were mushy and prone to failure all the time. It did, however, add a pause button, which was revolutionary at the time. So you could pause that game, go get a snack, go use the bathroom, and jump back in. And the original model was absolutely massive. The console was 13 by 15 by 4.25 inches big. Now, by comparison, the original Xbox was 12.6 by 10.2 by 3.58 inches. So the 5200 was significantly larger than the original Microsoft Xbox. I mean, really, the OG PS5 overall is just another 2 inches smaller than the 5200. So imagine how big that machine was. I think the biggest console aside from the Pioneer Laser Active to be released, I believe, was the 5200. So let me know if I'm wrong on that one. The original system also boasted 4 controller ports with only 3 games, 2 released and 1 unreleased, supporting 4 players. So they removed 2 of the ports in future releases of the system. And lastly, I said there were 2, there's actually 3. The original 5200 combined the RF box, right, the radio frequency box, so how you connected the 5200 to televisions in that era, and the power supply in a weird way that allowed just one cable to be plugged into the system, carrying both electricity and video. So while it sounded really innovative, the unit would often spark when plugging it in, causing Atari to abandon the setup and go back to separate components. So with all of this, no backwards compatibility with the 2600 library of games, the video game industry crashing in 1983, and the rise of the home computer, it just put the poor 5200 in a position it couldn't survive. But with more than 1 million units sold and 69 games officially released for the 5200, it was officially discontinued less than 2 years after its release in May of 1984. And just over a year before we will see the Nintendo Entertainment System released in North America, and 2 years before Atari made another run at the market with the Atari 7800, which we'll cover on a future episode of Rewind. So for those of you that owned one or just want to experience this oddity in the continuum of game consoles, let's head on over to the 8-bit living room and explore the library of the Atari 5200 SuperSystem. All right, so here we are, in the nice cozy 8-bit living room there. All righty, let's see. Yeah, again, another lovely night for space over there. And let's go and pop up some commercials in the background of the Atari 5200. So that'll just run on loop while we go ahead and play and kind of dig into the library. And then I'll press the button here to go ahead and bring up our console. Okay, that's not working. Why isn't that working? Oh my goodness, what was that? Oh, I thought there was something jumping there. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there it was. I thought I heard something coming down from the top. I mean, that is one big system. Oh my goodness. Woo. All right, let's make that small. Let's get that thing out of the way so we can go ahead and, well, number one, I can see you over this, Atari system. And number two, we can jump in and start playing some games on this 5200. So, all right, let's see what we got going over here. I'm going to go ahead and give a quick shout out to everybody there. Yo, welcome. Let's go ahead and drop that in there. And let's go and do the same for our folks over on YouTube. Okay, so yo everyone. All right, so let's see. Okay, so we've got our chat up and running here, and we've got a little music playing in the background there, and we're going to go ahead and jump straight on into playing some of the Atari 5200. Okay, so the first game we're going to go ahead and jump into. So I'm also playing on an emulator just because, like I said before, getting my own hardware out of my home, out of storage, and then into the studio here sometimes can be problematic. So sometimes we go ahead and just play some of this on through emulators, which is fine because we get to still sample all this great content. And of course, if there are any recommendations you have or memories you have of playing these games while we are playing, make sure you go ahead and pop them into the chat. Let me know if there's a game you want me to fire up. So the first one that we're going to go ahead and dig straight on into, which will show a little bit of the difference between the original 2600 and then the Atari 5200 versions is Space Invaders. So let's go ahead and take a look at this classic game of Space Invaders. I'm going to drop this down a little bit. So the music should be down there. Okay, and here we go. Now you can see, you can see that the characters that they're using here for Space Invaders don't look like the original arcade Space Invaders. I'm not sure why. Even on the Atari 2600, they didn't even try to approximate, what was seen in the arcade. They just, made their own versions of it. I don't know if it was a licensing issue or what have you, but you can see that this version is scrolling a lot more smooth than even the arcade did, right? Definitely more colorful. You've got that rainbow banding at the bottom there showing off the color capabilities and the sprite handling capabilities of the Atari 5200. I also don't remember in the original one those UFOs coming out as fast as they're doing in the Atari 5200 version here. Let's get that little guy at the bottom there. We can grab him at the top. So yeah, again, this is it's a competent port of a Space Invaders style game, even if it doesn't look like the arcade did, right? So they were just showing off a bit of the capabilities of the 5200. Oh, there we go. We got that last one. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Yay. Oh, did I just die? Oh, no. Okay, it's just starting back over. All right, here we go. Oh, okay, that one was ridiculous. Let's try this again. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah. And then if people are watching, let me know in the chat if there's a problem with the audio or with any of the levels. We had a bit of an issue here. One of the things that I don't like that modern peripherals and systems try to do is they try to go ahead and make it easy for users to take advantage of their features, and sometimes they'll go in and completely mess up system settings that I've done. Oh god, yeah, this is where I'm gonna die here. Yeah, it's gonna get right down to the bottom. And so I had plugged in a different controller that actually had a microphone in it and a audio jack, and so it grabbed the audio and completely reconfigured my streaming system, which was a terrible
Your life force
fail.
Is running out.
Kind of like my life force is running out. And so yeah, I think I got everything back to normal. So you let me know in the comments if we have a problem there. So that was Space Invaders on the Atari 5200. Again, it was not arcade perfect, but it was designed to go ahead and kind of show off the capabilities of the 5200. I'm jumping in here right now to make sure that we are live on the stream here, and that way everyone can go ahead and see us. And let's make sure that they are. Are we good? Yeah, we're good. All right, good. We've got all that going. Great. Okay, so let's go ahead and back out of Space Invaders. That Space Invaders for the Atari 5200. Again, it was an approximation of the arcade, not really the actual arcade game. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this one. Was actually a really fun one. I remember on the Atari 2600, it was called the Death Star Battle. The Star Wars Death Star Battle. Ooh, listen to that. And so you're basically, the Millennium Falcon down here, and you're fighting all these different ships as they come in. And then I believe what's going to happen is eventually, yeah, see, so it's going to open up a port for me to actually fly through. I think, can I fly through that, or do I have to shoot through it? No, I have to shoot through it. That's right. Shoot through it to attack the Death Star that you can see is being built. Oh, shoot, you gotta get through it when that force field isn't there. So you have to wait for the force field to be down. Oh, that was, I think, Boba Fett's ship, right? Slave 1 coming through there. Yeah, okay, so I made it through force field, and now I'm heading up to the Death Star. Ooh! And there we go. And so now what I'm gonna try to do is fire through this. I believe I have to, no, I don't fire through it that way. Let me see. Yeah, I forget what the controls are for this one. Yeah, let me turn that down a little bit. That one is loud. Yep, there's Boba Fett. Get out of the way. Ah, there we go. Okay, right. So you have to basically, instead of rapid fire, you have to hold it down to let, you know, a shot go ahead and fire up into the Death Star. So you're trying to hit the center of the Death Star there while avoiding the laser that's moving back and forth. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Yar's Revenge. If you, you know, a little bit of that type of mechanic, right? You have one of the slower moving projectiles kind of tracking you, following you around. And now, okay, let's see. Come on. Yeah, is it going to hit me? Yeah, so I'm losing points when I do that. Let's see, can we get right in the middle? Nope, I didn't hit that yet. All right, let's see. We got to go in and at least kill one before we move on, right? I mean, shoot. Oh, I like the fact, too, that you can loop through the bottom of the screen there. You're not kind of limited to just flying back and forth. So that's good. A little good defensive sort of maneuvers that can be done there. Ooh. Come on. Come on. Get over here. Get over here. All right. Let's see if we can... Can I fire up in there? No. Yeah, look at that. We did it. We blew up the Death Star. So, and then you went back to the beginning and started all over again, right? And that's how you played. That is how you played this game. And it was on the Atari 2600 as well. It's just a bit more advanced on the 5200. So, fun game, but you can also see how quickly the game would end, right? So it's not like we had a tremendous amount of replayability or anything there. Let me see. Let's just reload that player, make sure everything is good. Yeah, I think everything is still going, so we're good. All right, that is the Death Star battle on the Atari 5200. All right, I'm going to turn a little music in the background here, and let's go ahead and. All right, so one of the things I mentioned at the at the start of the program today was Atari was really leaning into their arcade ports, right? And so they figured, look, with the Intellivision out there, and they had some pretty shoddy ports of some arcade things. The 2600 also, very anemic, approximations of those arcade games. So they said, hey, with the power of this new machine, we can go and actually get closer to the arcade before start delivering some of that at home. So let's go jump into one of the arcade games, right, which is Q*bert. All right, and let's see, it's got all the music that we would expect there, and let me see. And is this one going to make me jump this way? I think so. All right, let's see. Okay, I believe, let me see. Okay, yeah, it's making me actually press a button after I'm pointed in the direction I want to go to. Let me see. Before I can jump. It's a weird ass setup. I don't care for this at all. All right, let me see. And I think, the problem too is, as I mentioned, the Atari 5200 had basically an analog controller, not a digital controller. And so when you're trying to play some of these on a digital controller, it just doesn't, it doesn't work really well. The polling isn't right on this, right? But the point is, with Q*bert, you can see that, it looked more like the arcade than other games than the other versions did on other systems, right? And so it was more complete, felt like you were closer to the arcade than what you were normally used to at home. Let's actually go ahead and fire up a game that uses these digital type controls to make it a little bit easier to jump in. This one is Popeye. Of course, really good game. It has a lot of good strategy to it actually as well. And the thing about this Popeye game too is on the Atari VCS or the 2600. My apologies, I call it the Atari VCS. That is how I first was introduced to it, right? The video computer system. It was still a good version on the VCS. Does it even better on the 5200, right? But it's not, it isn't this massive leap over the Atari 2600 version, although it's certainly more performant. The music is better. The graphics look cleaner. Oh, the Bluto got me, right? And it's actually a really tough game. This is one of the games that Shigeru Miyamoto absolutely loved. And of course, if you study video game history, you'll know that this was originally brought to the arcade by Nintendo. And yeah, so what you have to do here is get all of Olive Oil's hearts. Man, I'm getting my rear handed to me on this. So what you have to do is you have to grab all of Olive Oil's hearts before they hit the water and sink to the bottom, while avoiding Bluto and the Sea Witch, who's throwing those bottles at you. And you want to go grab those. I believe the higher the level is that you grab the heart, the more points they're worth. Can you? Oh, that's right. The ladder, I think, only allows you to go up, I believe. All right. So then what happens is when a heart hits the bottom there, it starts to sink into the water. So you got to get down there and go pick them up. Oh, Bluto got me. Womp womp. Let me see. All right. Do we have any more? No, that was the end of the round. All right. Let me go and try one more. I have to at least beat one of the levels here. But this was, again, it's a really fun game, and it's available on so many different platforms. If you never played the Popeye arcade game, it's definitely worth your time, because it is a fun game. Like I said, it does have some strategy, and it has some variance in the levels as well. There's like a springboard, I believe, on the next level, and you're collecting notes, and the music changes. So, I mean, look, even these earlier games, they had this notion of assets for a particular level that included, again, the graphics, music, all that stuff, and a recognizable character. I know Popeye doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot to kids growing up today, but when I was a kid, in the 1980s, Popeye was still a recognizable character featured in, Sunday comics, and there were cartoons and all that stuff, right? Okay, not doing too badly there. All right, that little piece at the top, let's see if I can get him in it. Let's see if I can get Bluto in it. Come on, back this way. Let's go. Let's go, man. Let's go. And there we go. So I trapped him under there, and I can scoot down the ladder now and just pick up those hearts and move my way around. And one of the things that'll happen is, so you see Bluto's kind of reaching down between the levels to swipe at you. And then I think in later levels, he can actually jump between the floors. Shoot. Yeah, that's the other thing. Look, the precision that I told you about with having that analog stick, you needed a digital stick to play these things, because you need to be directly in front of that ladder in order to be able to use it. You can't even be slightly to the left or right of it. And doing it with an analog joystick just did not work, right? Really, really difficult to do. I just remember how frustrating it was. And the funny thing is, necessity, right? There's that old saying, necessity is the mother of invention. So when we needed to get that precision, I remember a friend of mine who actually had the 5200. We couldn't afford a 5200 when it came out. What they would do is they would take rubber bands and kind of strap them around the stick, wrap it under the controller and back around the other side. So that way it would self-center, right? Just by, from the tension of a rubber band. And that is how we kind of, made it a little bit better, a little bit easier to use than the stock 5200 controller. Again, points for trying to be innovative. And there we go. Hooray, hooray. Yeah, the little bit of air horn on top of that. But yeah, and so you can see, look, we've got a little different layout here to the board. As I mentioned, there's this springboard here. So if you jump onto it, it's going to bring you right up there to the top. So again, it's, a very serviceable, not platformer. Yeah, I guess kind of a platformer, right? Or a ladder climb sort of game. But yeah, okay, so that was Popeye on the Atari 5200. All right, so let's go find another arcade conversion for you. Let's see, what are we going to do here? Joust. Ooh, Joust is a great game as well, right? Super easy to get into from a control perspective, and really tough from a strategy perspective too. Like, you really need to understand the physics and, you know, how to go and best play it. And this is a pretty competent port. But one of the problems, so here's the thing, right? So this game, this version of it, while I said Joust is a great game, this version of it is pretty terrible, right? So the reason it's terrible, not just because of the graphics, right? So you don't have multicolored sprites. So it's not much better than the Atari 2600. What makes this game so difficult to play in the 5200 is the acceleration of your ostrich. So if you tap the button, you're moving up way too fast. So it's really hard to get a handle on the physics of this. And I believe one of the reasons that was done was just because of how terrible the fire buttons were on the 5200. Like, the game needed to help you because they were horrific. I mean, it was, you know, a little bit of carbon underneath a rubber button, but the placement of them were terrible. You've got to use them on the side with your fingers. It's just a horrible design. So this is a case where perhaps, right, the physics of the game or the controls of the game were changed to accommodate for really bad hardware decisions, right? But anyway, so this is Joust, you know, one of the classic video games from the beginning of the arcade era. Right there. Oh, look at that. See, just double bounced on them. And yeah, actually, let me just clear this. See, look, 2 taps should not throw me halfway up the screen. That is just terrible. All right, yes. Now we have the little platforms in the side that are disappearing. And I don't see any other colored enemies, which there should be now. There should be, I believe, either it's probably gray, not blue. Not showing up. So anyway, that's Atari. That is Joust on the Atari 5200. Again, an inch closer to the arcade, a little better from a graphic perspective than what you had on the 2600 at home, but certainly not enough to go ahead and drive adoption of the platform, especially when the ColecoVision came out, right? Because when the ColecoVision came out, and it just had games that looked more like their arcade counterpart. In fact, let me see if we have... Let's see what other, you know, we're going to do that. We're going to lean into a bunch of the arcade games. So this game that I'll fire up right now is called Berserk. And there was just an announcement from Atari. They're doing a Berserk. I think it's called Recharged is the name of is the version that they're going to be bringing out next. This one was actually a really good conversion on the 5200. And it was a version that took it a step further than what you could get on the 2600, right? And one specific reason is voice. So we're going to hear that right here. So, you know, you're moving through the maze here, and you can fire at these, at your enemies here. And you can't touch any of the walls, and you can't touch the enemies even as they're exploding or falling apart there. And let's see. And actually... Now, you notice that all movement stopped right there in the screen. Now, what I want to say is, after saying that there was speech in... Yeah, the humanoid must not escape. Now, having said that, I'm not sure if there was audio on the 5200 version of it. So, as I said in the opening, you know, the Atari 5200 and the 400 and 800 shared basically the same hardware, with just, you know, less RAM and some changes made in the 5200. So when you're running this in emulators, right, it's basically an Atari 800 and 400 and 5200 emulator. So I'm wondering, I need to go back and check. I'm not sure if the 5200 actually had the voice samples there. What you'll also notice is when any voice is occurring on screen, there is no motion happening. There is no gameplay to be happening because the system just could not do those at the same time, right? It basically took all of the processing power of the computer to actually do the voice samples and play those back. And this is, you know, a really good, really challenging game. It is not an easy game by any stretch, even today. So, yeah, if you have a chance to play Berserk, which you're going to be able to now on modern machines with the new Reloaded. And I believe, you know, the legend around Berserk was that it's the only arcade game where somebody actually had a heart attack playing right? Which is pretty grim to think about, but that's part of the history there. So that's Berserk on the Atari 5200. And again, it's another step above what we had on the Atari 2600, closer to the arcade. And a good competent port. Good game. Good job, Berserk. All right, let's go ahead and jump into... Oh, here's another game. Great game. Again, still super challenging to play. Still a lot of fun to play. Very addictive. But you can see where there's some slight improvement over the 2600, and that's Carol Shaw's River Raid. Now, the reason we can call it Carol Shaw's River Raid, right, was because this was done by Activision. And back in the day, Activision was founded because the developers that were at Atari building games for Atari would not let them get credit for the games that they were making, or really enjoin in any of the revenue or commission or anything like that, the sales of the games. So a bunch of folks left Atari. They went ahead and founded Activision, and now people get credit for the games that they were creating. So this is Carol Shaw's game, and it is more complex than the Atari 2600 version of the game. I love this game too. Really, really difficult to do. So what you have to do with this one is, so you're basically flying up the river and you're shooting as much as you can. You can see it's got jagged lines on the side representing, the landscape there, versus just, flat lines on the Atari 2600 version. And what you have to do here is that you have fuel that's constantly clicking down. So in addition to avoiding all the enemies on the screen, you want to run over those fuel tanks that are in the middle there. But you have to slow yourself down to be able to fill yourself up. So you'll see I'll slow down and fill up. And sometimes you blow them up by accident, or you can be halfway up, the fuel bar, and then you'll hit, a complete full tank, and you can still blow up the bar as you move through it, right? So you'll see, there we go. So you're balancing a bunch of different systems at the same time here. You're looking at your fuel, you're looking at your enemies on screen, you are trying to maximize for points, and not accelerate and kill yourself like an idiot, like I just did right there. So yeah, this was such a fun game to play, and it's one of the, it is, River Raid is one of those just one more round game, right? Because super addictive gameplay, super addictive gameplay, and just fun, just a really fun game. Like, this would be completely at home, really, quite honestly, on a mobile platform for as an endless runner type of game, right? You just procedurally generate all the landscape, and you just continue running forever. So this is, again, another really, really good game. Definitely one to go ahead and check out. River Raid on the Atari 5200, but again, it's also on a whole variety of systems. So make sure you go ahead and try it out if you're looking for a good challenge and a good classic game. That is a good one to have. All right, so we are ripping into some of these. Let's take a look at another arcade conversion. I love the original version of this game, Congo Bongo. This one, not so good, right? And I covered this as well on I think it was the ColecoVision one as well. It kind of looks nice, but it plays really, really just terribly. It's really hard to figure out where you are in this isometric, okay, what was that jump? I don't understand, what direction I was in for that jump. Okay, how did that coconut go right through me? Right? Where is it going? Oh, okay, it's going down there. But how did it bounce into the water and then bounce back up? Super frustrating. Okay, I was climbing up on the step. Okay, all right. But let's try this again. And this was supposed to be, Sega's answer to Donkey Kong, right? Because at the time, Donkey Kong was all the rage in the arcade. And let me just crank that music back on. Okay, so that coconut looked like it was going down. All right, we're going to slide down here. Okay. I jumped across it, right? My God. Okay. Okay, so now it didn't go up that one level. Okay. Get you know, look, I'm all for a challenging game, but this one, holy cow, is it just terrible. Okay, here we go. Down. Okay. And then, where am I going? Jump across. Okay. Oh, just made it. And I'm climbing up here. Now, if these monkeys get on my... Like, what got me? The wall? Terrible, terrible version of this game. Terrible version of that game. Yeah, that one just fails across the board. That was just a terrible, absolutely terrible game. And of course, right, what am I going to do? Try it again because I'm a glutton for punishment. There we go. Okay, here we go. Down, and then we're going to try to jump across. If that monkey will let me. Horrible, horrible, horrible game. Horrible game. Okay, I'm done with this one. Terrible. Congo Bongo is a great game if you play the arcade version of it. The 5200 version is probably the worst version of that game that I've ever played. Ugh, so frustrating. All right, let's go take a look at another arcade conversion. Dig Dug, right? The classic Dig Dug digging game. Now, the thing about, you know, that era when we had these games, as bad as Congo Bongo was to go ahead and play, you still, you know, just kind of made these concessions for it because, oh, it was, you know, you were still playing it at home and it looked like the arcade. Now, this one looks a whole lot closer to the arcade than the 2600 version. But, you know, here's the thing, like the sprites are not multicolored really. So you lose a lot of the detail of the characters and the character design, but it's still, you know, highly playable. But again, imagine playing this thing with an analog controller versus a digital controller. You know, just really difficult to do. One of the things that we did love, though, you know, as kids playing this, like the levels are denoted by the number of flowers in the top of the screen. So we're like, oh, look at that, that's cool. It's not a number. They're just showing you by putting up those graphics. Oh my goodness, look how advanced this thing is. Woo! All right, let's see. Now, the thing with Dig Dug is if you basically burst the pukas and the figars down at the lower levels, you get more points. And of course, you also don't want to run into a ghost like I just did there, which sucks when you do. And let's see. You know, I wonder if it's going to let me... I don't think it does. Let's see if it'll drop. If I drop 2 boulders, it should release... yeah, it does. Okay, I completely forgot that. Yeah, if you drop 2 boulders, you can go ahead and pick up, you know, the prize in the middle, the fruit in the middle of the screen there. So that's Dig Dug. Again, another good, you know, arcade conversion for the the poor Atari 5200. With terrible controls, it would have made this virtually unplayable back in the day. Okay, but that's another arcade conversion. So let's go ahead and continue to dig on through those. So the precursor to Galaga, which, you know, so many people that grew up playing these sorts of games, they list Galaga as like one of their favorites, right, of all time. The precursor was Galaxian. And what you'll find with Galaxian is there is this one ship, this yellow ship. It almost looks like a lawn dart, if you know what that is. So I may have just given you another reference that some people may not know what the hell I'm talking about. But it looked like a lawn dart. That ship is nowhere to be seen in this version of Galaxian. So again, I wouldn't call this one a port. This is more like an approximation of Galaxian. Now, what I noticed here, okay, I'm gonna restart this and not press any buttons, because what I just realized was in using a digital pad instead of a analog pad, it's polling to figure out where I'm starting from. And when I started there, okay, now I can control it. I was holding down the control pad to the left, so that's where it thought 0 was. So it kept trying to reorient itself or reposition itself to the left of the screen. So I couldn't even control the damn ship. All right. Yeah, so you can see, you know, this was also known back in the day as the Color Space Invaders. That's the way people kind of described Galaxian, right? Although certainly a lot more complex in the way it moved, and you had more dynamic sounds, and they moved down in patterns, so there was more strategy to it than Space Invaders was, right? Space Invaders was just make sure you're in a good position to kill the bottom, to the last two invaders, because they're going to move too fast. But again, this is not a port, more so, this is more of a interpretation, right, of Galaxian, but still pretty fun, but simple, right? It's a simple shooter. All right. Moving on from there, one of my favorite arcade games of this era in particular was Pengo. And Pengo, again, had provided a lot of strategy, a bunch of different mechanisms that you could use to kind of clear these boards out. If you've not played Pengo before, again, it's a lot of fun to go ahead and play, on a modern system. So what you're doing here is... Okay, why did I all of a sudden appear there? I think I just pressed the button again. So let's try that again. Again, the problem with these analog controls being trying to be used with a digital pad. Terrible. All right, here we go. Let's see. All right. Now I'm right there at the beginning. All right, so no, it's not going to let me do it. Ah, that's too bad. So basically what you have to do is you have to slide those ice blocks to kill everything on the screen. If you get the 3 diamond blocks together, it basically opens up, it's basically like the reward, and you can shake the sides of the screen, and it just gets more complex as we go along. But hey, this is one of the problems sometimes in playing these older games on, through emulators or using modern controls, that sometimes they just don't work. Okay, so here's popular one, Pitfall, right? This is one that most gamers, even if they never played it, remember. But you can see the upgrade in this from the Atari 2600. You have some detail on the trees in the background there. You have more color, I believe, on Pitfall Harry in terms of the clothing he's wearing. The logs and stuff all look they look the same. Actually, they look exactly the same. And of course, I'm going to jump right in there. The music sounds better. Let's hear the Vine. Exactly the same as on the Atari VCS, right? And you got to jump on the Croc's eyes. Is how you get across there. That's how you do that one. And then, of course, one of the things, one of the techniques is, I think it's for every screen that you cross underground, you're skipping 2 above ground. These guys are really hard to get over. That's kind of a pixel perfect sort of jump that you have to be able to make. And I did it once, but I'm not doing it again. Is it going to knock me back? No, that was it. That knocked me back. So anyway, so this was Pitfall on the Atari 5200. Again, a modest upgrade over the Atari VCS or the Atari 2600, but still a really fun game to go ahead and play today. You got that timer up there, clicking you down. Oh, yeah, dead end. So let's see if I can jump over him again. Oh, and he did it. Congratulations. That was good. That was a good one. All right, so that is Pitfall on the Atari 5200. All right, let's try another arcade conversion. This one's actually probably one of the best games on the 5200. This is Miss Pac-Man for the Atari 5200. And yeah, here we go. I'm jumping. You got all the music. You got all 4 ghosts there. You have the familiar maze layout, good animation, good sound. Challenging game, right? Doesn't look exactly the same, of course, screen resolution being what it was, and capabilities of the machine being what it was, and I just missed all of those ghost monsters. But yeah, another really good version of an arcade game. I mean, imagine having this in 1982, 1983 at home. Right? You're not running down to the arcade to pump quarters in. You're playing what looks like Miss Pac-Man at home, or in your kid brain, right? That content dilation sort of, thing where you're making all these allowances for the game. You're like, yeah, I'm playing the arcade. No, you're not playing the arcade. You are playing certainly a home version of it. But man, it was, it played like Miss Pac-Man, looked like Miss Pac-Man. And so we were happy with that too. So there is Miss Pac-Man, a good, again, home conversion of it. But again, you know, some of these conversions just weren't good enough to go ahead and ward off the ColecoVision. And then, of course, the Nintendo Entertainment System, once that released, that just changed everything, right, for the games industry in the United States. It just, they were doing things that looked really like the arcade, as close as you could get. In some cases, they were all virtually identical, like Excite Bike and stuff like that. So anyway, so that is Miss Pac-Man on the Atari 5200. Let's go ahead and grab another arcade conversion. Another really good game, still holds up today. This is Moon Patrol. And Moon Patrol, if you've not played this before, what makes it so challenging, okay, I also have to say, it's not the best looking version of Moon Patrol. So you could jump and you fire at the same time here. So what you're doing is you're avoiding the obstacles on the ground. Different size pits require different lengths of jumps. Same thing with the boulders there that you'll see on the ground. And then different types of enemies that come swarming in. Some of them just drop missiles down on you. Some of them take a long time to do so. So you have to basically move back and forth to avoid those. Some of them also drop munitions that will cause craters to appear in front of you. So now all of a sudden you'll have a crater that you didn't expect that you were going to have to avoid. And that sucks when that happens, but that's what makes this game so challenging and fun. And it's another game that has different graphics for different levels and different types of enemies. So let's see if we can get past this one. It is a difficult game, for sure. But let's see if I can at least make it to the first checkpoint here before we... Yeah, I'm actually... Okay, these are the enemies that throw bombs that actually cause craters in the ground. These guys are not. They're just dropping missiles, so you just have to avoid them. Come on. Get in here. Oh! See, it didn't throw the wheels off. That was what was so cool in the arcade version, right? Is you would see... All right, here we go. Yeah, see how it just added these craters? So not only do you have to watch out for what they're dropping, but now they're causing the craters in the ground in front of you. And you know, you have to time it with the jumps because you can't just keep jumping. Oh, I'm not going to hit it, am I? Oh, come on. Can I? Oh, no. Oh, damn it. All right. Well, yeah, there you go.
Your life force is running out.
Yeah, my life force is running out. But that's Moon Patrol. That's a good one. That is another really good one. So if you were a kid who was fortunate enough or unfortunate enough, and depending how you looked at it, to have a 5200, Moon Patrol was a good one to go ahead and have because it was just a good damn game. All right. Let's see. What other... which other... arcade games do we have to look at in here? Oh, Zaxxon. Really good game. And again, this one's a really good, competent version of Zaxxon. So this was a game that was done in isometric. So you've got that kind of over the shoulder, but kind of skewed perspective. So it gave the illusion of 3D when it's still really a 2D game. And let's see. So you have this meter on the left side of the screen that shows you how high you are, and or how high your craft is. Let's clarify that. And yeah, so then you have to move and avoid these walls and these obstacles and force fields in there. But again, you know, hey, this looks like a 3D game, but it is most certainly not a 3D game. And now you're into outer space and you're fighting these spaceships. The problem that I always had with this level is you couldn't tell where they were. Sometimes it'd be above you or below you, but there was no indicator really to tell you what level they were on versus where you were. So this stage always kind of, or part of the stage always just kind of bugged me, right? Because when you lost, it really wasn't your fault. You just couldn't tell where you were. And so now, okay, raised you up to make sure you avoid that part of the wall. And look at that nice varied environment. And like this one here, you have to get just underneath the force field and not run into it, right? So you had to know kind of where you were in 3D space, even though it's 2D. So good, challenging game. Looks a lot like the arcade did. Not exactly arcade perfect, but enough to go ahead and get you there, right? So it's well, not a bad game at all. That's Zaxxon on the Atari 5200. All right. Let's see, what do we have next? Next coming up here is, do we want Vanguard? Oh, Vanguard, this was actually another really good game. I want to see how it plays on this, actually. I remember when there was there was an old commercial for the Atari 2600 version of this, and the Gond is the name of the, okay, that energy is giving me unlimited, power, so you're invincible, so you have a limited amount of time. You can go ahead and just run into people or ships without having to fire on them. Anyway, so it was like these kids playing Vanguard at home, and they get to the Gond, and they're like, who destroys the Gond? It's like Luther destroys the Gond, and it's this, like stereotypical 80s jock going as he blows up the Gond, and saved all of those nerds from the Gond. Thanks, Luther. And so the trick with this one is you can fire in 4 directions. So however you're moving your joystick, you could go ahead and fire in those directions, up, down, left, and right. So it added a little twist to the side-scrolling shooter piece. And then you'll notice the map at the top there. What'll start happening is you'll move up diagonally. So now all of a sudden you're kind of in these more cramped corridors. And you have to kind of mentally change the way you're playing the games. Here we go. Now we're going to go into the rainbow zone. So now you see how you're moving. Now you're moving diagonally upwards. So now your enemies are coming from up and coming from the top and bottom of the screen versus left to right. So it changes up the game for you as you go ahead and play through it. And you see different graphics, different music. So again, this is another step forward in games and capabilities over the the Atari 2600 or the Intellivision. But again, it was just not a big enough of a leap to sustain them as the industry had been collapsing, as the ColecoVision came into market, and then of course when the Nintendo Entertainment System came into the market. All right, so that is another arcade conversion. We are cranking through a bunch of them today. Ooh, this is so good. Let's go ahead and take a look at, let's see. All right, one of my favorite games on the Atari 2600, and this is a good version here. This is called Keystone Capers. I believe we also did this one on the ColecoVision, if I'm not mistaken. So this one, super easy premise. You are a police officer inside of this department store, and there's a thief on the loose, and so you just need to avoid obstacles, pick up treasures, and catch the thief before he reaches the top level and escapes the building. Again, this one is still a super fun game to go ahead and play. And there he goes, and you want to just spring over that little ball there. Now you can see on the radar at the bottom of the screen, there's a little black dot that's moving. That's you. And there's white. That white dot is the thief. And so you basically want to go ahead and get to him as fast as you can. Now those elevators, sometimes taking the elevator is not the best way to go ahead and capture the thief. And you'll notice the thief started running in the opposite direction once you got in the same level as they did. And so, yeah, this one, again, it's one of those, let me just get one more game in, just one more round of Keystone Capers. And they just keep throwing more enemies at you. There'll be airplanes and shopping carts and all kinds of things that start coming at you that start to have different patterns as well. And they change those up from level to level. Really, really cool little game. I just want to go ahead and finish another level or two in there. So yeah, and what you've lost is, I think, points, right? Yeah, points when you got hit there. And it slows you down. So when you get hit and you're paused, the robber continues to move and run, right? So you really don't want to get hit too many times. So let's go ahead and just get to one more level, and we can see what other varied enemies the game throws up in front of us. So I always used to love just jump and clobber them from the top instead of just from the bottom there. Okay, so here we go. And what's this one going to be? Yeah, shopping cart. And the thing is, they repeat on the levels. So if I hadn't jumped, that shopping cart would have shown back up. So it just loops, right? It just constantly respawns, as you just saw there. So you have to keep moving, keep jumping, keep getting the hell out of the way. And yeah, so here we go. One. Can it get, oh, see, you got to get right there in the middle. And I wasted all that time trying to get into the elevator. But imagine trying to do that with a analog joystick that has no centering to it. Oof, terrible, terrible. But I do love this game, so. All right, here we go. 1, 2. And we're over the ball. And we're over him. And jump again so you don't get hit. And where are we? There we go. Hooray, hooray. Yeah, that is Keystone Capers on the Atari 5200. Really good game. Definitely go ahead and seek it out if you have access to like an old Atari collection or something like that. Don't pass up this one. It's a good game still today. All right, let's see. Let's get a few more in here before we get out of here for the weekend. Let's see. What should we do next? Okay, this game is the second version, is the follow-on to Pitfall. This is David Crane's Pitfall 2, The Lost Caverns, and you can hear it's got that wonderful soundtrack, but I don't believe it's any different than the Atari 2600 version of the soundtrack. Actually, let me get down here and we'll go find some gold. But one of the things that it does have, of course, is better animation, more detailed, like the trees are more detailed. You have that debris floating on top of the water. You have, oh, that rat's gonna push me off. You just have more detail, so it makes the world look a bit more vibrant, right? More realistic, instead of kind of all the flat shaded stuff that the Atari 2600 had. And I believe that if you complete the full game, that it opens up a whole second adventure. At least it does on the Atari 800 version, which is the favorite game of my very good buddy, Mike Micah. All right, we have here, let's see, Buds with Nick. Hey, buddy, how are you today? What was the worst game for the Atari 5200? That is a really good question. You know, it's like trying to figure out what the worst game was on the Atari VCS. A lot of people say it was Pac-Man or E.T. I don't necessarily believe that to be true. E.T. actually turned out to be a pretty good game once you figured out how to play it. But the worst one for the 5200. I'd say that pains me to say this. For me, it's probably the Robotron 2084 conversion. Just a really poor game. I would also say, you know, look, the fact that at the time that that was Pitfall 2. Really good game. Again, it's definitely one to go ahead and find on, you know, a catalog or compilation if you have access to it, right? But I think if I'm looking now at the collection that I have here in front of me, I'd say probably the worst game, would still probably be for me would be Robotron. Now they did have like Super Breakout, and that is what they packed in with the system. So basically, Vertical Pong is what they were using to compete with the ColecoVision when it released with Donkey Kong, right? Like this is the pack in, and of course I can't play it with a digital control. You need analog for it, but this is what you had to play this brand new Atari SuperSystem with, was Breakout. Not that Breakout's a bad game, but it certainly doesn't show off any of the capabilities of the Atari 5200. So I'd say, pound for pound, that's probably the worst one, just because it did nothing for people that came into play. So, but I'm going to show you a few more of my favorite games that I still think are pretty good. Pretty colors, yeah, that's a plus, but not when you're saying, hey, you know, I now have this brand new game console that cost me a couple $100. It doesn't play any of my old game cartridges. It's got this weird ass joystick that doesn't work properly, and I'm looking at these other systems that come out, you know, a year later with arcade Donkey Kong in it. Really kind of hard to stomach that. That's why the 5200 only lasted less than 2 years in market. Sold 1 million units, but lasted less than 2 years, right? This one is called Kicks, Quicks, however you decide you want to, however you want to call it. This one is basically kind of how do I put this? Kind of like a territory capture game where you basically have to go ahead and create these, paint in parts of the playfield before the kicks hits your line as you're in the air there, or the sparks go ahead and get you. And I believe you have to get to 70%. Can I trap those sparks? Let's see. Ah, there we go. It was 65% is what I needed to get. The threshold was 65. We went ahead and hit 68. Hooray, hooray. And then it just gets more difficult, more difficult. Now, you can also go ahead and there are 2 different ways you can build up the screen. One is using the fast mode that I'm using right now, or you can go slower. I believe it's like 30% slower or something like that, but it gives you like twice the points for each of the sections that you go ahead and fill in. So it's telling you there at the top of the screen, the threshold is 65. You have to cover 65% of the screen in order to go ahead and complete the level. I just got hit by a spark. The sparks traverse the edge of the levels. And if you stop, as I just did, while completing a line, a spark will appear at the base of your line and kill you. Let's see, did I hit it? Nope, I got 5% more to hit, and you got to get over here to do that. And that's 74%. Yay! And so that is Kicks. And it doesn't seem like, it's a tremendously complex game, but it's one that certainly builds in challenge. Here we got 2 Kickses, and I think if you split them down the screen, they will they will you get different points for it and stuff like that. So another really good game on the Atari 5200. All right, and it seems that my control pad went ahead and decided to crap out on me there, so we're gonna have to finish up this show manually here today. Today has just been, wait, today is what? Today is Friday the 13th. That is exactly why all of this stuff has just been going wrong today. But yeah, we're almost out of here for the weekend, so that's a good thing. All right, let's go ahead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a few more games until this thing fires up, and before we have to go ahead and get out of here for the day. All right, let's see. What's another good one? All right, this is one of my desert island games. This is a game called Mega Mania. This was on the Atari 2600. Fantastic game. I'm going to let run and start up here. Oh, and look at that fancy ass title screen that would show up. We didn't get those, really on other systems. Hold on 1 second. You hear some clunking around back there. That is me getting a power supply to make sure that, that this control panel is going to go ahead and work when I need to in just a little bit here. So, all right. This was conceived and designed by Steve Cartwright. Steve Cartwright, brilliant game designer. We're all the way back there in the day. I'm actually going to be interviewing him on the Game Industry Legends series of programs that we do here at AWS, and that's going to be coming up a little bit later in the year. So we're going to sit down with Steve and talk to him about what it was like back in those early game development days, what it was like being at Activision at the time, and talk about the choices that they made and really get an insider's view into what it was like during that era of game development. Really, really awesome. Okay, this game, again, one of my 10 desert island games. So we've got, let's see, all of the boigas that we're firing off here. The good thing, so the thing about the 5200 version of it, and you brought this up, Buds with Nick, is a lot of color in it. On the 2600 version of the game, these were all single colored ships. They still look like hamburgers, but they didn't look as pretty, right? And so what you have is just this continuing like kind of cascade of these enemies that have varied patterns that go down past the bottom of the screen. And so you have to not only basically kill the enemies first, but also understand where they are going to be moving and whether or not you're going to be in their path as they make their turns. One of the frustrating things with the game, though, is your missile, after you fire it, moves with your ship, and you need to kill everybody before you run out of energy. And I am not going to be able to do that before. Oh, I lost one of my ships. Dang it. All right, let's see if we can clear out the level here. See, where are the other ships? They're further up the screen in the pattern, right? So everything basically moves as one giant sheet. And there we go. All right, we went ahead and took that one down, and let's see. Yeah, so now this one, okay, this one is really difficult because not only are they firing at you, you see how they're all just moving slowly down in a single line. So if you're not able to get them all, basically that entire line of enemies is going to lock you into a position and then chase you across the bottom of the screen. Tough. And you see, look, back then, these games, because, they didn't have as much variety, or I shouldn't say they didn't have a variety. They had a lot of character, a lot of heart, right? But they were difficult games because they had to be. There was no assisted firing. There was no, the game did not help you. The game is just, like nature, right? It's just trying to constantly kill you, right? And so when you got good at the game, it's because you put in the time and dedication to getting good at the game. And that's what made the replayability high, right? Is being able to crank up the speed or those sorts of things and just continue to go back in and try to get that high score. And that's what it was about. In fact, what Activision used to do, which was really cool, was they had this program where if you got a high score on a particular game, you took a Polaroid picture of it, you sent it into Activision, and then they would send you a physical patch, like a really nice patch that you could go ahead and put on your jean jacket or on your backpack for school or something like that. And if you go onto eBay and look up the Activision sets, you can find people selling these full sets of Activision patches that were really, really awesome. I had only ever gotten like one or two of them. But I had a friend who had, basically a sleeve and a half of a Levi's jean jacket covered with Activision patches. It was pretty awesome back in the day. And that's how, it wasn't about having a high score up somewhere. Yeah, now they'd be NFTs, right? Yeah, except that I can't wear those out. Nobody can see them. But, kids in the playground, they saw you with that jean jacket and you had that high score patch. They knew you had skills to pay those bills. And yeah, they were pretty awesome. So this is Mega Mania. Again, one of my top 10 Desert Island games. Super replayable. A lot of fun. A lot of challenge. Yeah, and just brilliant. And we're going to be interviewing Steve. I can't wait for that. That's going to be happening in November. So look for that on the AWS for Games channels on YouTube and Twitch when we go ahead and post that live. All right, let's go ahead and fire up just a couple more here to get us out for the weekend. Let's see. Let's go ahead and take a look at what do I want to go ahead and play? So many choices, all 69 games, right? That the system had. Let's try Gyrus. Okay, this game, really good. And what made me kept really enthralled about this when I was a kid was the music, right? And the positioning of you in the game, right? It's more like Tetris, where you're flying around the exterior of these planets. Well, why don't I just shut up and show you? And you're right, yeah, bragging rights. That's what it was about, for sure. So 2 warps to Neptune. Because of the color palette, a little hard to see where your bullet is or your missile is versus just stars in the playfield there. It's also, you know, with the lights here in the studio, it's a bit more difficult to see anyway. And so you could circle all the way around here, and you could see your enemies in the middle, so you knew approximately how many ships you had left, and I ran right into a bolt at the top because I'm sucking at this today. All right, let's see. All right, now if you hit the middle guy and you wait until those two pieces bounce around the playfield, you now have two cannons, right? And that's always what you wanted to get in Galaga. Make sure you had dual cannons, especially when you went to the bonus stages. And so now I can fire faster and take out more enemies before they hit the center there. Do love that. Do love that. Okay, let's see. I don't know why we are so... looks like I'm really laggy on YouTube versus the Twitch stream coming in there. So I hope my comments are aligning with what you're seeing on this screen there. All right, let's see. Where are we charged up on this? We're at 6% there. All right, I'm going to let that go for a little longer. Oh, here we go, the chance stage. Let's see if we can go clear this bad boy out. All right, you go down here at the bottom and... No, it's because I got killed. Oh, all right, we did that. That's two. Oh, with the single cannon, can you do it? Oh, look at that. All right, see, that is how you do that. Oh my goodness. All right, so yeah, that was Gyrus. 3 warps to Uranus. Let's pronounce it correctly. All right, there we go. But of course, you know, the other way is more fun to say. All right, and that was Gyrus. So, you know, again, a good, competent port. Not exactly arcade perfect, but it looked all right. It looked all right. Okay, let's find 2 more, and then we're going to get out of here and get the weekend going. What is a good one here? The last 2 to finish out on. You know, one of the ones that is... you know, one of the Atari games that's really held up as one of the best they've ever done is Star Raiders. Unfortunately, you need a whole control pad for that, and it takes a lot of time to get in play, so we're not going to be able to jump in and play that today, although that one is a really good one. Let me find... We see we did Pitfall, Pengo, we did Moon Patrol, we did... Mega Mania, which is good. Hey, you know, let's go ahead and do a Nintendo port. How about that? Mario Brothers, right? When we talk about Mario games being on non-Nintendo systems, this was one of them. So you can see it kind of looks like the arcade, but that does not really look like Mario, does it? Okay, let's get under here. Let's bounce him. And I landed. Of course, I landed on him, right? The coins, though, you know, they actually spin there, so that's good. So they, you know, look like coins did. Let's see if I can bounce this one out here. All right, good. Got him. And then I should be able to bounce him. And do that, and that should clear the level out. Very good. All right, that cleared the level out. Let's see what happens on the next one. We should start getting some of the crabs, I think, coming out here. Or different colored shells. That'll be more difficult. Can I get over him and over him? And, oh, kicked him, but also got hit. Damn. All right, let's go ahead and, you know, let's just hit the POW button there. Oh, of course, now I'm at the top, though. Ooh, let's see. Oh, shoot, look at that floaty physics. My goodness gracious. It's going to start me at the top again there. All right. Got him there. All right, now we got these damn bouncing fireballs. Look at that backwards jump. Oh, right over him there. That's good, too. And then we down here, and we go up here, and we go... grab him. Fireballs. All right, let's go ahead and... Oh, how did... Okay, how am I jumping right through the POW block? Like, I'm not blind, right? Okay. Come on. All right, good. we got? Yeah, but you know what? I've completely messed that up. Oh, look at that. See, he looks like he's on fire. So they actually did that, which is pretty cool. Oh, and you've got, you know, the turtles coming out with their underwear on, which was always, you know, very funny. And but because, you know, the power of the Atari 5200, they were able to go ahead and do that. There we go. That's one. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and get killed right there, right? All right, let me go ahead and see where we are here on this. Turtle underwears. That's right. Underwear, under there. That's what they were. Turtle underwears. All right, let's go ahead and get one more game here while I'm waiting for this control pad to boot. And then I'm going to let you get back to your Friday. And yeah, you know, here's a good one. Here's a good, well, I keep saying that. The games I'm picking, they are kind of the best games that the system had to offer. Jungle Hunt. Again, another fun, competent game that's still a lot of fun to go ahead and play today. Let's see. Hey, there's Mr. Delora. How are you doing, buddy? So glad to see you join today. All right, here we go. We are swinging on some vines. And so the goal here is to be able to get to the water. Oh, and I missed that vine there. And you got to time all of those, right? So they move at different paces. You got to kind of figure out, you know, where you are in the swing there. But you're also watching out that timer at top. So this is a good time to jump. And let's see. Here we go. And it's going to probably be this one here, right? And if you get further down on the vine, so at the top, you'll actually be able to jump further. And let's see, can I do it? Yeah, and further down the vine. So now I'll be able to jump a little further than I could before. All right, let me go ahead and let that sit there for a second while I go ahead and do this. I'm going to slide this screen down here to make sure I'm not chewing through batteries on this on my tablet here. So, all right, here we go. Jump. Oh, no. All right. I have to make it in here, right? Okay. Let's see. Where is this? Here we go. I'm going to fire this one up and I'm going to refresh this one here. All right, here we go. Come on. Let's go get it. One. Oh, look at that. Caught him right there at the bottom of the bottom of that. That's good. Let me see. Can I refresh this? Let me reconnect this here. And there we go. All right, good. Now we're back to, now we're cooking. All right, here we go. All right, come on. Let's go ahead and get in it. All right, here we go. This jump right here. Boom. Oh, okay, that sucked. All right, I'm going to do this one more time. All right, now that I'm not dealing with all this craziness happening over here, let's see. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1. We have to at least get into the water there because that's where we're going to be fighting some crocodiles. All right, here we go. Let's get a little bit of music kicking on there. And let's see. We got it. That's 2. Oh, I double jumped on that. Terrible, terrible, terrible technique. What is that all about? Okay, here we go. Okay. All right, grab that one. And let's go ahead and grab that one. Oh, okay, come on. Now, the original version of this game, does anybody know? Mark, do you know what the original version of this game was called? And no looking up online. No, nobody knows. Oh, I double jumped again. Damn it. The original version of this game was called Jungle King. And who do you think Jungle King was? Tarzan. And so the estate that owned the Tarzan property said, hey, you can't use that. That's exactly right. It was Tarzan for sure. And so they had to change the character from Tarzan to an explorer. There we go. All right. Yeah. So now what you have to do is you have to use your knife to stab those crocs and keep track of your oxygen at the top there to make sure you are not running out of air. Which we're going to do right here. And I think, are those air bubbles or are they? No, they're not air. Oh, are they? Nope. Nope, they are. Yeah, they're air bubbles pushing you up and then keeping you from actually completing. Oh, womp, womp, womp. All right, that was Jungle Hunt. All right, since we had Mark in here, let's go ahead and find one more game to go ahead and play, and that will get us out of here for this episode of Rewind. So let's see. Let's see. Let us dig into for a moment. Not Gorf. We've already seen enough Gorfian style things. What was the arcade one? Jungle King. Yeah, Jungle King was Jungle King was the original arcade one. Then they changed it to Jungle Hunt to get out of the licensing. That was also in the arcade, and then that's the one that really came home was Jungle Hunt, not Jungle King. We did Popeye. We did a bunch of these. All right, so you know what? I'm going to go ahead and close it out with this one called... Actually, here's a good arcade conversion. One more arcade conversion, then we're going to get out of here and let you get back to the rest of your week, for a little bit of it that there is, and to our weekend. So this is Defender, of course, by the incredible Eugene Jarvis, right? Originally created this, and this one looked like the arcade, right? This one is a really good version of it, and so maybe you have to go pick up, so these spaceships are basically trying to pick up and grab all the little humans that are running right down there at the bottom of the screen. And when they get picked up, you have to shoot them down. And then, okay, so that was a little screech. Oh, the UFO came and got me. My goodness gracious. Okay, let's see. So you can see on the radar up there at the top, one of them is going to be going down to try to grab those humans. And so what happens is when you shoot one and they start to fall, you have to capture the human in the sky and basically rest them down there. Wow, man, that's a lot going on. And then the more humans you have left over, right, the better it's going to be. Or the more points that you get, right, at the end of the game. Really tough game, right? That's just terrible right there. All right, let me see. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Terrible. All right, let's see. Come on, get in there. Get in there. Let's see. Can we get this one level done too? Hey, all right. We went ahead and got that level. So that is Defender. So that is just a sampling of the games that were available on the Atari 5200. Remember, there were only 69 games available for this machine. So we actually went through quite a bit of the library, right? And the games I show you are really among the best the 5200 had to offer. It wasn't until Atari came back into market with the Atari 7800 that really got much closer to what the arcade versions looked like. But by then, it was too late. Nintendo had already established dominance in Japan and in the United States. The Atari 7800 came out, I believe, about a year after the Nintendo Entertainment System made its way into the United States. And so then that basically put Atari back on their heels and they shifted to home computing, right? But we're going to go ahead and cover those systems on another episode of Rewind. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. So I want to thank you all for spending your Friday afternoon with me here on Rewind. If you care about, well, not if you care about, of course you care about making video games, but if you are a video game developer of any size, from AAA to indie, make sure you head on over to aws.amazon.com/game tech to discover the products, solutions, and services that we offer to help you on your cloud game development journey. And of course, I want to give a special shout out and thank you to Waterflame for allowing us to use his music here on Rewind. Make sure you head on over to his YouTube channel at Waterflame Music to check out his incredible work. And as I said, if you care about preserving the history of video games as much as I do, make sure you head on over to the Video Game History Foundation's website at gamehistory.org. They're doing some incredible work to preserve the history of our industry for future generations. And once again, I want to thank you for spending your Friday afternoon with me. Have a wonderful rest of your day, an awesome weekend, and we will see you next week on Rewind.